going to be speaking about how you can find the right editor for yourself and your project. My name is Eva Barrows, and my co-host today is Lila Labine. Okay, so just a little bit about myself. Again, my name's Eva Barrows. My business is Eva Barrows Writing and Editing Services. And I do developmental editing for fiction and nonfiction books. And I'm also a publication manager for newsletters, like helping businesses write the content and get their newsletters out on time. And I also do, various content writing projects, including blog editing, and writing on also articles and writing content for websites.
And my name is Lila Labine, and I have Labine Editorial. I do editing for fiction writers. I have a combined line editing and copy editing service. I do just copy editing. I do some beta reading for specific genres. And then I also edit and proofread screenplays. So we're going to talk about why do I need to hire an editor? Oh, this is
it's okay. So basically, if you're going to self-publish or go the traditional publishing route, there's some great reasons, why you might want to hire an editor to work with you. So traditional publishers do provide a level of editing once they have agreed to publish your work. So your acquiring editor may give you feedback and ask, for a revision and update on your content. And then, once that's approved, they'll go ahead and copy edit it before they publish. But if you're a first-time writer and you haven't, worked with a publisher before, you might want to consider, hiring an editor to work with you to make that project the best it can be. And then also, of course, if you're self-publishing, hiring for maybe one or two freelance editors might help. So someone to help you with the big picture editing, and then someone to help you with the language level.
Where do I look for an editor? You can find the editors in lots of places. A lot of people will tell you Fiverr, Upwork, Reedsy, Facebook, Instagram, even Goodreads. Some of these places you have to be a little careful because pretty much anyone can say they're an editor. There's not a specific certification. There are certificates that you can get, but there's not one overall certification that everyone recognizes. So when you're looking, especially on Fiverr and Upwork and Facebook, you just want to be really careful. A lot of those editors tend to offer very quick turnaround times and very low rates, and that's often not a good sign. So just be careful and try to maybe ask around or get references. Reedsy is actually one of the more reliable ones on this list, and editors have to meet certain requirements to be on Reedsy. So that actually is one that you might check out. Facebook has a group called Ask a Book Editor, where writers can ask questions, and many well-respected editors are in that group and they'll answer your questions. And then they have a related group called Ask a Book or ABE Help Wanted. And that's where you can also ask if there are any editors available to work with you or to give you a sample edit. On Instagram, you can search, developmental editor, hashtag copy editor, hashtag editors of Instagram, all of those. There are some amazing editors on there, including I'm on there too. But again, you want to be careful because it's not always, anyone can say they're an editor really. So you have to just watch out. You could find people and then ask your writer friends, and sometimes that helps. Goodreads has an editors and writers group, which again, I advertise on there, but there's also a lot of very cheap editing on there, and you, again, just be careful. One of the better places to look is in professional associations like the Editorial Freelancers Association, ACES, the Society for Editing. Those are both editing professionals belong to those. They have to pay to be a part of those groups. They have opportunities for professional development and networking. There are conferences to go to. So most likely when an editor is a part of one of those groups, they're a little more serious about their business. They might have invested more in, in their training and education. And so that's always a good sign when you find an editor who belongs to one of those groups. The Alliance of Independent Authors is a global membership association for indie authors, and partner editors can join as partner members. I'm a member of that. And they vet you before they allow you to join as a partner member. So that's a great place. And often the editors that are partner members in Ally offer discounts to author members. So that's another great place to look. I'm not sure if you have to be a part, like an official member of Ally to see the directory of publishing professionals. You might have to. I should have looked that up. I'm sorry. But that is a great organization. And then there's the Chartered Institute of Editing and Proofreading, and they're in the UK, and Editors Canada, obviously in Canada, and those are both the same. They have, it's a great sign if your editor belongs to one of those. It's just like EFA or ACES. They all offer, editors opportunities for training, more training, and networking and all of that.
Okay. So can you hear me okay, Lila?
Yes.
Okay, great. So I'm going to talk about person-to-person finding your editor. So first thing you can do is ask your friends, your writer friends, like who their favorite editor is to work with. So that's probably maybe one of the best ways to find an editor is just someone who can vouch for, an editor that they've worked with before. So if you don't know anyone who's written a book and published or worked with an editor, you can join or visit a writing group. So I am the vice president of the California Writers Club, the San Francisco Peninsula branch. So I'm happy to talk with anybody about, that club. But we have local branches across California that support writers. And guess what? Editors go to these meetings as well. So you can meet writers that can, recommend people, and you can also meet editors on the spot. And then there's other things like Shut Up and Write, which is usually it's an online thing or maybe sometimes in person where you would meet at a coffee shop. You can check out, different different clubs that or different groups of people that meet up around your area. And so then that's just a great way to meet other authors and talk to them about their editors. And then just one more association is the Women's National Book Association. They do a lot of networking and events, and you can, find out whoever, editors they have in the club and people that they've worked with before. And then just the benefits of finding an editor through a friend or someone you trust, or just better yet, meeting an editor face to face is that, your friend, can tell you about the track record they have of doing, a great job for them. And then also, you can see if your friend has received the help that they needed and if they think that the editor is going to do the same for your project. And then if you're meeting the person yourself, you can feel, if you can get along with this person, like if you like them and want to work with them. And if you feel good about working with them, then you can just set up, get started. I guess that's that slide. So how do I know if they're the one for me? And then again, we're going to be looking at the editor's online presence. So say you haven't met this person, you haven't, done a handshake or had a coffee with this person. You can choose a short list of editors, maybe about 3 people that you want to kind of check out. So you can start your research online. Uh, Editors should have a website and have information on the services and types of editing that they do. And then maybe a little bit of like how their process works and how they work with authors. And there should be a portfolio of past projects that they can show you or give you links to from their website. So you can kind of see what other projects they've worked on in the past. And then there should be some client testimonials. And of course, the ones on the website are always going to be very shining testimonials. Let's see. Next one. So if you want to dig a little deeper into those testimonials, you can find the authors that they've worked with on LinkedIn or other social media sites, but LinkedIn is great for looking up an author. And I think in most cases you can direct message them and say, hey, what was it like working with this editor? Would you, really recommend them? And then you can also look the editor up on LinkedIn and just kind of see their past publishing, writing, and editing experience. And you can do the same on social media. So if you want to look the editor up on Facebook and Instagram, you can see, what they're talking about. Do they seem knowledgeable? Are they serious about being a business person and about helping authors, really get to their goals? And then if they do workshops like this or have videos where you can check them out and you can kind of just see what their personality is. And then I just wanted to let you know, like writers, editors are usually introverts, I would say. So just kind of being able to, get out there is a big, a big thing for them. So maybe all you see is a writing sample or editing sample, and that might be enough for you to make a decision.
I like that you put that in there.
And then one more thing. So genre specialist or generalist. So your editors specialize in different areas. If you're writing something like a romance, a sci-fi, or fantasy, you might want to work with an editor who specializes in that type of fiction. Because they're going to know the genre conventions, what has to be in your story to make it a successful sci-fi or fantasy novel. And then they're going to be more familiar with the best-selling authors and people currently writing in your genre. A specialist can help you stand out from the rest. And then a generalist is someone who edits a variety of nonfiction topics and literary fiction. And so they know how a story needs to be structured, and they know what it takes to capture and keep the attention of a general audience. So they can help you hook and captivate casual readers. Okay. And here's some more. So meeting potential editors. So if you're able to meet someone locally, that's always great. So you can have a coffee meeting, or you can talk at the writers' meeting. And then just kind of just get a sense if this is someone you're comfortable handing your baby over to. So that's your project, of course. And then are they someone that you want to work with for the long term? So especially if you're writing a series or if you plan on writing several books, and you might want to, stay with the same editor for many, many years. Like, is this someone that you've hit it off with? And then if you can't do that, you can simulate an in-person meeting by doing a video call with the potential editor. And then phone calls and email assessments should be maybe a last resort because it's a little bit difficult to see, how your personalities mesh. Um, And then I was going to say, if you decide to work with someone from a platform like Lila was talking about earlier about like Fiverr, um, the communication there, I think it's mostly done through messaging on the platform. It sounds like there might be some video calls, but you probably wouldn't be able to have a coffee date with the person. So it's might be a little more difficult to build that strong relationship with them.
Yeah, their work is a little bit more like packaged and not unique to, not customized.
Mhm.
So when you are assessing an editor and deciding whether you want to work with them, you're going to have some questions that you want to ask them. And that would be, do you have a contract or an agreement? I mean, basically, it's the same thing. I like to call mine an agreement because it sounds a little more friendly, but they should, some type of document that you both sign that specifies when they'll be finished with the project, how long it's going to take them, how much it's going to cost, what kind of communication you two will have during the editing, during the project time, and ways you can pay. It can have a lot of things. So mine pretty much spells out all of my business practices for an editing project. And that's a really good sign when an editor has that, because it, again, it means they're serious. It means they, usually means they're going to more likely to deliver on time. And so that's a great question to ask. And of course, you're going to ask them about their services they offer and their rates, and which, like Eva said, what genres they specialize in. You can ask them if they offer sample edits, which, if it's a line editor or copy editor or proofreader, they definitely should be offering sample edits. Sometimes they'll be for a small fee, but often they'll be for free. Or some type of Q&A or discovery call, just so, like Eva said, so you can have a chance to get to know them a little bit. And then you can also ask them, what professional editing experience do you have? Or what professional training do you have? Because they should have at least one or the other. And do you belong to any professional organizations? Because again, like I said earlier, that is a sign that they are, they've invested in their education or their business. You'll ask them what their typical turnaround time is, because every editor has a different speed of editing, and it also depends on what kind of edit you're getting. So I know that I'm, on the slower side, because I really like to be thorough and do really high quality editing, and that's the way I am. I'm slightly slower. So I always make sure my potential clients know that before they seriously consider working with me. And that's something you'd want to ask. And then, of course, when's your next opening? How often do you update your clients during editing? Because some editors like to do all the work and not really talk to the author or the client until the very end, and then they give everything to them. And then other editors and authors like to have back and forth communication during the whole process. And what's your preferred method? So emails, Zoom calls, whatever. And do you have any testimonials to share with me? And then you're going to ask these questions of yourself. So have they or about the editor to yourself? Have they responded to my emails within a reasonable amount of time? Or at least, do they get back to me when they say they will? That's, obviously that's a good sign. Do I feel respected in our interactions? Did they give both positive and negative feedback on my sample that I gave them? And is that negative feedback worded in a way that is constructive and polite? Do they seem to get my writing? Like, do they understand the purpose of your project? Do they seem interested in it? They don't have to love it, but you want someone who believes in your project. And do I like them? What's my gut feeling about them? This is one of those situations where you really should definitely listen to your gut. Like, do you feel great after talking to them, or do you feel like small and put down and So yeah, it's really good to pay attention to that. And you're going to assess a potential copy editor or line editor or proofreader with a sample edit most often. It's the best way for them to show you how they can help you. Most editors and proofreaders will do a sample edit of 500 words to 2,000. Mine are 1,000. That's probably the most common. They're usually for free, like I said, but some editors do charge a small fee, and that's not a red flag. I know many great editors who charge a small fee because it does take a little bit of time. I spend an hour or two on each sample edit and then getting the proposal ready, and just it's a little bit of work. So charging a small fee isn't a big deal. Oh, and then when you do choose your writing, the sample from your writing for your sample edit, you want to choose somewhere from your manuscript that's a little less polished. Of course, you want to have self-edited it, but don't give them like the most perfect part, because you're wanting to know what they can do for you, how they can help you. And if you can also let them know what you're struggling with, or what you're struggling with in that particular section of your manuscript, that's another good way, because then you can see, is this editor really good at what I need the most help with? And then the sample edit allows you to see whether your writing style and the editor's editing style mesh well. So you get to see how the editor communicates their feedback, which is very valuable, because you want to know ahead of time, before you sign a contract with them, before you pay the deposit, you want to know that you like the way they give feedback. And it's reasonable to expect to wait about 3 to 7 business days for a sample edit. Often editors have a couple of projects they're working on, and then they're getting inquiries and sample edit requests from potential clients. So it can, give them a few days, and yeah.
So we're going to talk about assessing your potential developmental editor. So when you first talk with your potential editor, they're going to ask questions to determine the strengths and weaknesses that you might be coming up across in your writing. And then they won't be able to give you specific feedback on that first call, before they really get to look at the manuscript. But they might be able to say, well, it sounds like you're having trouble with this, or maybe this, and just to kind of see what you're thinking needs help. And then if you're interested in working with them, then a lot of people will ask for the full manuscript to look at. But if you're not comfortable with handing over the full manuscript at that time, maybe just a large portion of it, maybe 20 pages or 30 pages, so they can really see kind of what the development looks like. Go on. And then, so the editor will review about 10 pages from somewhere in the document, probably not the beginning again, because that's more polished. And then depending on what kind of editing you're looking for, they may do a sample line edit if that's, what you're looking for at that point, so they can show you how they can help strengthen the language. But if you're just overall, looking at the whole development of the manuscript, and know that it's going to, the language is going to have to change no matter what. So you're just kind of getting that really high level feedback. So they're going to let you know in comments. So this is in the sample. They'll give you comments about what they're seeing is being done well, and then maybe what they're unclear about and what they're curious about. And then they'll point out some part, like an element of storytelling that can be strengthened, and some ideas on how you can achieve it. So basically, they'll point out something, but they want to try to give you a solution. And if that solution lands well with you, then you know that the feedback they're giving you is solid. Just make sure you feel like everything they're giving you is helpful and that it's going to help you reach your goals.
And just like you're assessing the potential editor, your editor is going to be assessing you as a potential client. So when I have a potential client I'm communicating with, I ask myself certain questions like, is this project actually ready for the kind of editing I offer? I don't want someone to spend all this money on a line and copy edit when really they should be getting a developmental edit first. It's not always easy for me to tell with a 1,000 word sample edit or by reading a couple of chapters, but often I can. So I would hopefully your potential editor won't just say, yes, I'll work with you without even, assessing your manuscript a little bit. I ask, am I excited to work on this project? Like I said earlier, you want an editor who is into your writing and into your project or your story. And, or at least am I okay spending many, many hours on this? Because I want to do a really good job and I'm going to do a much better job on my client's manuscript if I'm really interested in it. Do I have the right skills to give this project what it needs? So I don't want to work with a client and on a project that I know that I'm not quite ready for. So I would never say yes to something like that. And then just like you want to feel respected by your editor wants to feel respected by you. So of course, you want to make sure that communication is polite and that you get back to them on time. And oh, one thing, so when you ask for a sample edit and then they give it to you, give you the quote and everything, make sure you respond, even if it's with a no, because sometimes editors are hesitantly putting you on their calendar and they're not quite sure. And it's always just really good manners to say, shoot them an email and just say, hey, I just want to let you know I went with another editor, but thank you for the sample edit. Okay, so this is basically what I've already said. Does this potential client respond to my communication in time? Oh, and then how did the writer respond to my feedback? Just like I'm going to word my feedback really kindly or as kindly as I can. I'm hoping that the writer is, not suddenly defensive, and because I know it can be hard to get feedback, but of course, I'm going to be assessing how they respond to my feedback. And then do I have the time to complete this editing project within the author's timeline? Because I want to make sure I get it done. So sometimes when an editor turns you down, it doesn't mean that your writing is horrible. It just means, either they don't have the time or they know they don't have the skills or they know that you guys just might not jive well. What can I expect when working with an editor? So while your editor is working on your project, you want to make sure that you set it aside and leave it alone, because if you're making changes on it just makes everything a lot more confusing when you're sending in, I've had clients do this, oh, I've made changes, can you incorporate this? I'll do it for regular clients, but most of the time I'll say, can you save that for the second round? Because it can make things just too confusing and then I'm not going to do as good of a job. But while you're waiting, you could research cover designers, proofreaders, book formatters. If you haven't done that yet, you can outline or draft one of those ideas you had when you were deep in self-editing of your current project. You could take a mini writing course or read a book to improve your craft. You could take a writing break altogether and read something that has nothing to do with writing or nothing to do with the genre in which you write. So yeah, that when your editor is working on your project, that's the time to just let it sit and let it be. And then after a copy edit or a line edit, You'll receive usually a redlined copy, a redlined version, and a clean copy of your manuscript. And that just means the redline copy shows all the edits, the tracked changes in Word. It's usually in Word. And then the clean copy is with all the edits accepted. And that's because sometimes the redline copy gets a little messy. There can actually be quite a few edits, especially if it's a copy edit and like say you have trouble with punctuation. You can look at the clean copy and see, okay, this is what they mean. This is what it's going to look like if I accept these edits. And then a style sheet, which is basically just a document where I'm recording the changes I've made, like spelling decisions, because things aren't always black and white. Sometimes there's different ways to spell a word, and I'm just making sure everything's consistent. You know, place and character names and descriptions. And then you'll review my changes and my suggestions, answer any questions, ask me any questions. And if your editor is doing a second round of edits, you'll send it back to them and they'll go through it again and they'll answer all your questions. So, and then if you have any additional questions, you check your editor's contract. I'm sure you probably already know how do we communicate? How often can I send them an email? Do they offer post-edit Zoom calls? Yeah.
So after the developmental edit, there's going to be a lot of work for the author to do. So the author will receive an editorial feedback letter, and then there'll be comments in the margin of your manuscript, and then in-text suggestions that are kind of going to guide you through the manuscript rewrite. And then, but you know, don't get overwhelmed because you're getting closer to publishing. Yay! So at the beginning of the process, when you're finalizing the contract with your editor, you guys should figure out like how you want to digest the feedback with them. Slide.
Oh, sorry. I was wondering if you were cutting out.
No, okay. So for digesting the feedback, think about like if you would want to meet maybe 3 times with the editor after they do their edit. And you can, you know, talk about the beginning of the novel, the middle, and then the end. Or would just a 1-hour meeting be enough for you to, you know, get all your questions answered and understand the feedback and suggested changes that they made? If you live locally, you can bring your laptops and meet at a coffee shop to do this. And I got to do that with one of my authors, and that was pretty fun. And then a lot of times people can just meet over Zoom and you can share your screen and talk about the edits that way. And then if you find that if you need more time with your editor than what you initially agreed to, most editors will have an hourly rate that you can, you know, go ahead and just set up more meetings with them at that hourly rate. So we're getting to the end here, and I think just what's important to remember is you're looking for an editor as someone that you want to work with, someone you're excited to work with. And then that editor, you want to make sure that they're skilled and can help you get where you want to go. And then, and this needs to be someone that you value enough and that you're ready to pay for their time and services. So, you know, if you're working on an article, that might be, you know, 2 hours of editing time. But if you're working on a novel, that might be 30 to 40 hours of editing time. And so just think about that. You're paying someone like for a week worth of work at a living wage. So just keep that in mind, and that's kind of give you an idea of how much, you know, editing might cost, and, you know, are you willing and able to pay for that? And
We have our next workshop is in March, and it's going to be about the difference between beta readers and their feedback and critique group feedback. So that will be March 13th, again at 11, and you can register at the links below there.